My father's voice was cold when he gave me the choice sign over my great aunt's historic home to my sister for her next big project, or be disowned. They saw a dusty relic. I saw a legacy. They thought they were betting on the rising star, my sister. What they never imagined was that her own CEO, the very man she was trying to impress, had already seen the house, and he was about to teach them that some things are priceless. Before we dive into today's story, take a moment to let us know where you're watching from. We love seeing how our stories bring people together from all over the world. Your comments create a community where storytelling thrives, and we're so grateful to have you here. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment. Now, settle in, get comfortable, and prepare for a journey that will keep you hooked from start to finish. Let's get started. My name is Emily Carter, and this past year taught me that the most effective response to family pressure isn't a fiery confrontation, but a quiet, legally binding transaction. You might know the feeling. That sting when your parents label you selfish for holding on to what is rightfully yours, demanding you sacrifice your security for the golden child who has always been given everything. That was my reality when my family discovered I had inherited my Grandma June's charming house. They didn't just suggest I share, they ambushed me with a realtor, ready to force a sale, threatening to disown me if I refused. What they failed to realize was that I had already sold the property 5 days earlier to a buyer they never anticipated. The moment they saw who stood on the porch of that house, my mother let out a sound somewhere between a gasp and a scream. Before we dive into today's story, take a moment to share where you're watching from. We love seeing how our stories bring people together from every corner of the world. Your thoughts and comments are what make this community so special, and we're truly grateful to have you here. If you haven't already, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story filled with drama, resilience, and unexpected twists. Now, settle in, get comfortable, and maybe grab your favorite drink because this is a tale you won't want to miss. Let's get started. Growing up as the older daughter in the Carter household should have carried some weight. I learned early that birth order was meaningless compared to the sheer force of personality, and the one who effortlessly charmed her way into my parents' favor was always my younger sister, Chloe. While I caught the 6:30 a.m. bus to public high school, my parents were driving Chloe to Oak Haven Preparatory, a private academy with a staggering tuition. Emily can handle herself, my mother would say. She doesn't have the same needs as Chloe. What she meant was, Emily doesn't deserve the same investment. I remember showing my dad a report card of straight A's. He glanced at it before his eyes lit up. That's nice, honey. But have you seen Chloe's latest sculpture? Her teacher thinks it could win an award. My academic excellence was expected. Her creative whims were celebrated miracles. She had professional horseback riding lessons and summers at art camps in Florence. When I asked to join the school's mock trial team for a modest $150 fee, my father lectured me on fiscal responsibility. A week later, they bought a new convertible for Chloe's 16th birthday. But one person saw through the facade Grandma June while my parents attended Chloe's recitals. Grandma would slip into my room. Why do they love her more than me? Grandma, I whispered one night, after they missed my scholarship ceremony for her community theater play. She pulled me into a hug, her familiar scent of vanilla and old books a shield. Oh, sweetheart, they don't love her more, she said softly. They love themselves more. Chloe reflects the flashy life they wish they had. You, my dear, reflect who they actually are, hardworking, practical, and real. That reality scares them. I built my life on those words, while Chloe drifted through a private university on our parents' dime. I juggled 2 jobs for my accounting degree from a state school. The day I received my CPA license, Grandma June was the only one there to celebrate, bringing a homemade pie. My parents were in Aspen, celebrating a new marketing job they had secured for Chloe. My 28th birthday fell on a Sunday. I had hoped for a simple family dinner. The day passed in silence, no calls, no texts. Around 2 p.m., I saw my mother's social media post, a perfect spa day with my beautiful girl so blessed. The photo showed her and Chloe in fluffy robes, raising glasses of champagne. When I graduated with my master's, my parents sent a congrats text. When Chloe was promoted at work, they threw a lavish party. The invitation celebrated our shining star's incredible journey. But Grandma June never forgot. She celebrated my every milestone. She framed my first business card. She told her book club about her brilliant granddaughter. "You are building something real, Emily," she told me. "One day, you will have more than just my love to remember me by." I never imagined she meant the house. The house on Sycamore Lane, where I had spent every holiday. It was where I learned to bake, to garden, to believe I was worthy. When Grandma June passed, I felt like I had lost my only anchor. Then her attorney, Miss Gable, called to schedule the will reading. Even as I sat in that office, hearing my name read as the sole beneficiary, I knew it wasn't the end. In my family, anything mine was subject to a committee vote that always ruled in Chloe's favor. The house wasn't just a structure. It was an $850,000 piece of prime real estate. But for me, its value was in the memories of being seen and loved unconditionally. I was living in a cramped apartment, a long commute from my new accounting job at a clean energy startup. Ironically, Chloe was a marketing manager at the same company. The house would cut my commute to 10 minutes. It was the key to the life I was building. Within a week, the campaign began. "Emily, honey, we need to talk about Grandma's house," my mother's syrupy voice said over the phone. "It's too big for one person," my father added. Then came Chloe's tears. "I'm not saying you should give it to me," she sobbed, "but maybe we could sell it and split the proceeds. I mean, you already have an apartment." The pressure mounted in the Carter family. No was just an opening offer. The text became a daily deluge. "Family is about sharing, Emily. Your sister needs this asset more than you do. Grandma would be disappointed in your greed." That last one was galling. Grandma June, who had deliberately left the house only to me. Chloe's tears evolved into hysterics. She'd call, sobbing about how she could never afford a house, how unfair it was that I got one for free while she struggled in the luxury apartment our parents paid for. Then the extended family joined in. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all echoing the same script about family unity and fairness. The Thursday before our meeting at Ms. Gable's office, my father sent the ultimatum: "Agree to sell the house and split the proceeds with your sister, or you are no longer welcome in this family. Your choice." I stared at the text, no longer welcome, as if I ever truly was. Just then, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Emily, this is Daniel Reed. I heard you might be selling a property on Sycamore Lane. I've been looking for an investment in that historic district. If you're open to it, I'd be interested in a private discussion." Daniel Reed, my old study partner from college, a quiet, brilliant guy who'd built a tech empire, the CEO of Chloe's company, the universe, it seemed, had a wicked sense of humor. I looked at my father's ultimatum, then back at Daniel's message. A slow smile spread across my face. They wanted me to sell. Fine. But they never specified to whom. "Hi, Daniel," I typed. "Yes, let's talk, but this needs to remain strictly confidential." His reply was instant. "Understood. I can meet this evening, and Emily, I remember how they treated you in college. This time, you call the shots." Ms. Gable's conference room felt claustrophobic. My parents sat across from me like prosecutors. Chloe was between them, tissues ready. "Before we begin," my father announced, "we've brought our own real estate agent." He gestured to a woman in a severe pantsuit. "Mrs. Peters has cash buyers lined up." "That seems premature," Miss Gable said calmly. "Not at all." My mother interjected, "We are here to resolve this. The will has been resolved," I said quietly. "Wills can be contested," my father shot back. "Undue influence. We've spoken with lawyers." On cue, Chloe began to cry. I can't believe you're making us do this, Emily, she whimpered. I kept my expression neutral, a poker face perfected during years of chess with Grandma June. Never let them see your next move, she'd always advised. Emily is being selfish, my mother announced. I just want what's fair, Chloe whispered. Mrs. Peters slid a folder across the table. If we list today, I can have it in a bidding war by Monday. My client has not agreed to sell, Miss Gable reminded them. She will, my father said, his voice chilling. Because if she doesn't, she is out of this family. No holidays, no birthdays, nothing. My mother squeezed Chloe's hand. Your sister needs this. Emily, her new position requires her to entertain clients. She needs a proper house. The apartment you pay for isn't proper enough? I asked. That's temporary and none of your business, my mother snapped. I looked at their confident faces. My phone vibrated silently. A text from Daniel. Contract signed and filed. It's done. Ready when you are. Actually, I said, standing up. Sit down, Emily, my father commanded. I remained standing. There is something you need to know. The only thing you need to tell us is yes. My mother said, yes, you will sell. Yes, you will share with your sister. I took a deep breath. The house has been sold. A stunned silence filled the room. My father's face turned red. What did you say? You sold it without consulting us. It's my house, I replied evenly. I consulted with my lawyer and the buyer. Who? My mother shrieked. You probably sold it for nothing, actually, I said, allowing a small, satisfied smile. I sold it for $50,000 above your realtor's suggested price. As for the buyer, I think you should meet him. He's waiting at the house right now. The drive to Sycamore Lane was surreal. I drove alone while my parents, Chloe, and the furious Mrs. Peters piled into my father's SUV. As we turned onto the street, I saw it. The familiar craftsman bungalow, with the magnificent oak Grandma June loved, and parked in the driveway, gleaming like a chariot of karma, was a sleek, graphite gray Lucid Air. Chloe's gasp was audible. That's my CEO's car. That's Daniel Reed's car. I walked calmly towards the porch. The door opened before I reached it. Daniel Reed stood there, looking every bit the tech titan. Mr. Reed, Chloe stammered, what are you doing here? Daniel nodded at her politely, his expression neutral. He turned to me with a warm smile. Emily, perfect timing. Someone explain what is going on, my mother commanded, her voice losing its confidence. Mrs. Peters stepped forward. Mr. Reed, if you're interested in the property— I'm not interested, Daniel said smoothly. I'm the owner. The silence was pure, unadulterated shock. My father found his voice first. That is impossible. This house belongs to Emily. Belonged, Miss Gable corrected, stepping forward. Past tense. The sale was finalized 5 days ago, I added quietly. Chloe's face was a whirlwind of emotions. You sold it. You sold my house to my boss. Technically, I sold my house to his investment firm, I clarified. You can't do this, my mother shrieked. We are your family. You had no right. Actually, she had every right, Daniel said with authority. It was her property. My father's face was now a terrifying crimson. This is fraud manipulation. You took advantage of her. He pointed an accusing finger at Daniel. Daniel laughed. Mr. Carter, I paid $900,000 for this property, $50,000 above the most optimistic valuation. I wanted this specific house in this specific location. Why? Chloe whispered, her career flashing before her eyes. Daniel smiled, a cool expression. We're opening a new satellite office for the marketing team. Your team, actually. Chloe. She swayed on her feet. The company is expanding into more residential, creative-style workspaces. This location is perfect. My father took an aggressive step forward. We will sue you. Which daughter? Daniel asked with innocent curiosity. Because Emily approached me with a clean offer. I paid a premium price. Everything is documented. I'm not sure what grounds you have. You knew each other, my mother accused. This was a setup. We were study partners in college. I said calmly. Is it illegal to sell property to someone you know? When it's done to spite your family. Yes, my father shouted. Miss Gable cleared her throat loudly. Actually, no. Spite is not a factor in the legality of a real estate transaction. By now, a small crowd had gathered. Neighbors who had known Grandma June for decades were watching. Mrs. Kim from next door had her phone out, recording. Emily, please, Chloe begged, the tears finally real. This is my career. Your career is fine, Daniel assured her, a threat clear in his voice. As long as you meet your professional obligations. You haven't heard the best part, I said, looking at my sister. As part of the sale, I have a 10-year lease to live in the upstairs portion of the house, below market rent. Chloe made a sound like a wounded animal. I'll be living here, I continued, while you will be working here every day. Your big promotion, your fancy new office, it will be in Grandma June's house, with me right upstairs. The horror on her face was worth a lifetime of being overlooked. This can't be happening, Chloe whispered. He can't make me work here. That's harassment. Daniel's expression remained placid. The marketing team requires a collaborative space. This property is designated for that purpose. You are welcome to request a transfer. A demotion is implied, but your employment is not at risk. The unspoken yet hung heavy in the air. Just then, a moving truck pulled up. 2 men began unloading brand new office furniture. The team meeting is Monday morning, Chloe, Daniel informed her. 9 a.m., sharp, don't be late. I won't work here. Chloe stomped her foot like the petulant child she was. I refuse. That is your choice, Daniel said mildly. Human Resources can discuss your exit package on Monday if you prefer. My mother turned to me, her face a mask of rage. You have ruined your sister's life. Are you happy now? I haven't ruined anything, I replied, a newfound calm settling over me. I sold my house. She still has her job, for now. You still have your golden child. The only thing that has changed is that I am no longer available to be your doormat. My father stepped so close I could feel his breath on my face. You are done, he hissed. You are out of this family. Do you understand? I met his furious gaze without flinching. Is that a promise? The following Monday morning arrived with a surreal serenity. I made coffee in Grandma June's kitchen, the early light streaming through the windows. And for the first time, I felt I could truly breathe in that house. At 8:55 a.m., I took my mug onto the small balcony off the upstairs landing, which overlooked the front driveway. One by one, cars began to arrive. Chloe's convertible pulled in last. She sat in it for 5 full minutes, head resting against the steering wheel. When she finally emerged, she wore what I called her battle armor, a sharp blazer and a face of cold indifference. She walked up the path, never once looking up, but I saw her shoulders tense as she passed under my balcony. The first day of her new reality had begun, and I was a permanent, quiet witness to it. A few weeks turned into a month, and the novelty of the situation wore off, replaced by a tense routine. The old house, with its creaky floors and thin walls, was not built for corporate privacy. I often overheard snippets of their meetings. One afternoon, I heard Chloe's direct supervisor, a woman named Jennifer, growing increasingly frustrated during a conference call. Chloe's voice was hesitant, filled with marketing buzzwords but lacking any real substance or data. Chloe, synergistic branding isn't a strategy, Jennifer said, her voice sharp. I asked for a market analysis, not a word cloud. It was clear that Chloe, who had coasted on charm and connections her whole life, was struggling to perform a job that required actual work and accountability, especially now that her CEO was, in a sense, her landlord. My mother, unable to exert direct control, turned to her favorite weapon, public opinion. She posted a long, tearful message on Facebook about the unbearable heartbreak of a daughter who values money more than her own family. Carefully avoiding any specific names, sympathetic comments from her friends poured in. But then, something unexpected happened. Mrs. Kim from next door, who had witnessed the entire confrontation, replied directly to the post. Linda, she wrote, Some of us know what really happened on Sycamore Lane. Eleanor would have been so proud of her granddaughter for standing up for herself. Perhaps you should reflect on why it came to that. Her comment was liked by a dozen other neighbors. Just like that, my mother's narrative was shattered. She had lost control of the one thing she valued most, how the world perceived her. After a particularly bad quarterly review, Chloe came upstairs. She knocked on my door, her face pale and drawn. I let her in, and she looked around the apartment I had made for myself, filled with restored furniture and Grandma's books. "You're happy, aren't you?" she said, her voice dripping with venom. "Seeing me suffer every day. This is your fault. The stress of this place, I can't think, I can't work. You've ruined my career." The old Emily would have felt a pang of guilt, but I just looked at her calmly. "I didn't do anything to your career, Chloe," I said, my voice even. "I sold my house. Your work performance is your own responsibility. You're not being punished. You're just experiencing consequences for the first time in your life." She stared at me, speechless. And for the first time, I don't think she saw a sister she could manipulate, but a stranger she could not control. She left without another word. 6 months after the sale, Daniel called me for a meeting. Chloe, unable to meet her performance improvement plan, had been let go a week prior. "The satellite office experiment served its purpose," he said, "but the team is moving back to the main campus." A familiar chill of uncertainty crept over me. "What about the house?" I asked. He smiled. "The house is a solid asset, but my investment firm doesn't typically hold single residential properties. They're complicated to manage. My contract with you includes the right of first refusal." He slid a document across the table. It was an offer to sell the house back to me for the exact price he had paid. "I'm not in the business of profiting from family disputes, Emily," he said. "And besides, this closes the file cleanly. I believe in good people making smart moves. You've had a 6-month reprieve from your mortgage, and now the house is yours again, free and clear of any outside claim." Tears welled in my eyes as I signed the papers. My family had tried to take my inheritance, but in the end, their actions had only led me to a place of true, unshakable ownership. I was finally completely home. In the end, we learned that the foundations of our lives are not built by the approval of others, but by the choices we make in silence. Family is not a title you are given, but a sanctuary you must build sometimes by closing a door on the past to open a window to your future. The most valuable inheritance is never just a property. It's the quiet strength passed down to us, the wisdom to know when to stand firm and protect our own peace. The loudest statement you can make is to live a life they can no longer touch. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey. Every family has its complexities, and we'd love to hear your thoughts on this one. What would you have done in this situation? Let us know in the comments below. Your stories and perspectives are what make this community so incredible. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel for more tales of strength and resilience. We're so grateful to have you here.